Well, welcome, everyone. How are you all doing today? And let's see what we have in our book of horrors for you all. It looks like today we're going to be reading Creepy Encounters. Now, these could be encounters with the paranormal, cryptids, or the scariest monsters of all, humanity. Shall we begin? This comes from Ashar458. My sister's teddy bear that she got on her 13th birthday says I love you when you pull its string. It's usually on a shelf near the kitchen and out of reach of most people of the house. Only my brother is tall enough to reach it. So yesterday at 3 a.m. it turned on by itself. I thought it was just me, but it said I love you 2 more times. And I kinda got freaked out. My brother was in the same room as me. I called my sister's phone, but she didn't pick up, so I went downstairs to see the bear. I checked on my sister to find her fast asleep. I didn't find anything suspicious, so as soon as I took my first step, I hear something fall behind me. I turn around to see that the bear was now on the floor, facing me. This one comes from Only One Leah. I posted on the story of someone who shared a nightmare with a brother and was asked for my full story, so here it is. My sister and I were in our mid to late teens when we shared a nightmare. It started off tonally innocently. We were at Disney World, having a good time when we got in line for a ride. We were standing in a winding line when I noticed a man with red hair staring at me. As soon as I saw him, I was filled with dread and was terrified. He didn't do anything other than look at me, but that was enough. I woke up shaking. At breakfast, I said that I'd had a nightmare. My sister said that she did as well. I was like, well, mine was at Disney. Her eyes got huge and asked if there was a red-haired man staring at me. I still get chills when I think about it. We tried to determine if we'd seen someone who looked like that recently, and none of us could remember seeing him before. I have no clue how he shared the nightmare or who that guy was, but it still scares me to think about him. This one comes from DCC Rules. I work as a service manager at a Chipotle that is rather understaffed. As the manager, I'm the last one out, and due to staffing, that's usually pretty late. To make matters worse, I commute by bike, so I like to get changed when I finish all my work. This means I'm usually alone for 15 or more minutes in the basement of a strip mall, well after everyone else is gone. Because of this, I've heard strange noises and felt presences behind me, and others have even mentioned being pushed down the stairs or reported things being thrown down. We have cameras that look down the staircase, and trust me, it's pretty weird to watch happen. But the worst was that one night I was here alone until 2 a.m. doing a full inventory. The last employee left at 12:45. The building was locked down and there was not another single person in the entire strip mall. But by 1:15, I heard a man and woman arguing. The sounds were coming from the solid concrete walls. Around 1:30, I heard breathing come towards me, so I slammed the office door shut. That didn't stop the breath from coming up to my neck. I could feel pressure on my shoulders. That subsided around 1:50. At 2:10, I was getting changed in the storage room and took my bike out to set the alarm. The second I set the alarm, I hear the sounds of stomping boots running through the kitchen towards the back door where I was currently in the process of getting the fuck out. I never left the building so fast. This comes from Northeastern Dunes. When I was about 13, I went camping alone mid-July in a wooded area surrounding an old and unused reservoir. I was camped out on a small peninsula of land protruding into the reservoir. All was fine and enjoyable until around 11 p.m. I had begun hearing a lot of movement and decided to put out the fire and lowered my top covering to be less easily noticed, since I had no true means to defend myself, and truly felt that hiding with the cover of dark would be best. At around 1 p.m., I heard a very loud, deep-toned howl from the middle of the woods. Literally sounded like the classic werewolf howl from horror movies. This really freaked me out just by the fact that it was a full moon, but also in a realistic sense of danger because the state won't admit to the presence of gray wolves being in Massachusetts, regardless of all the sightings. Within 10 minutes of the howl, I heard loud, rapid gunshots from deep in the woods. At the time, I perceived it as automatic gunfire and was even more scared as I live in a state where guns are extremely regulated and automatics are limited to basically law enforcement. But as I got older, I realized that it was likely a group of people all firing semi-automatic rifles at the same time. Either way, it was really strange. After that, my timeline of the night seems a bit lost. I had my iPod Touch loaded with 2 movies and music, so I remember using that throughout the night and not getting much sleep besides phasing in and out of moments when I was resting my eyes. I'm not really sure how my battery lasted so long into the morning, and that night has always sat in my mind as a blur. From that point on, I had some wild paranormal experiences for the rest of my teenage years. I'm really nervous about solo camping again, as that experience still creeps me out. 10 years later. This one comes from N. Hannon87. Behind my childhood house is a forest. One day I was exploring in the woods about a quarter mile from the house, and I found a 6-foot-tall circle of sticks. Upright, you could walk through between 2 trees. Also sticks on the ground making a path to another stick circle. However, the other side of this was a steep hill. Also, there was a pit surrounded by sticks with a plaster face in the middle. Not sure why it was there, but I left in a hurry. This comes from DJax 1468. I was black powder hunting alone on private property. The property has gated entrance, and I parked my 4-wheeler there and normally walked in the remaining 150 to 200 yards to my elevated deer stand. As I shut my 4-wheeler off and put on my backpack, I heard a very large limb snap and thought it was a deer or animal moving around maybe 20 yards away. So I didn't think anything about it, gathered my gun and hunting stuff, and started walking down the 2-track trail without my flashlight on, due to having good enough light from the moon to see where I was walking. I hunted here a long time, and I knew the trail. This trail ended in a 15-acre hayfield, surrounded by old-growth timber. As I walked in the dark, I quickly realized something was paralleling my every step just inside the woods. I walked and stopped, and it would do the same. By the time I realized it, it was too late to go back to the four-wheeler, so I picked up my pace and made a beeline for my deer stand. When I got within 10 yards from the stand, I heard another large limb snap really close to the edge of the field on my left. I stopped, turned my flashlight on, and shined in that direction. I seen 2 glowing green eyes about 10 inches apart. Instinctively, I raised my rifle and stomped my foot at it, not really sure what I was seeing. It just blinked its eyes once and never moved. I could not make out any details, just that it may have been crouched down to the proximity of the eyes on the ground. When whatever this was didn't run like most non-predatory animals would do, I realized in that instant the best thing to do was bolt up my ladder and get into the stand as quickly as possible. This, whatever it was no more than 8 steps away, and if I shot at it, I would have been blinded by the muzzle flash, and it might attack if I missed it in the dark. The rest of the time I waited in the stand for daybreak. It circled my stand just out of light shine, approximately 1 minute before daybreak. I heard it go into the woods where it followed me. I waited till daylight and quickly made my way back to my four-wheeler. As I jumped on the machine, and just before I fired it up, I heard another branch or limb snap loudly. I left the area and went back home and cut the week-long hunt short and didn't return until the following spring. I've never hunted the same way again since, and rarely go in before or after dark on foot. I've since sold that property and hunt in my home state of Indiana.